Sometimes, late at night, I still hear the piano playing. It's soft, slow, and wrong. But what terrifies me most is knowing the music room has been locked for years. When I was a senior in high school, I had a part-time job as a student assistant. My main task was to help teachers close up the building after all the after-school programs had ended. Most nights, it was pretty simple: turning off lights, checking doors, collecting stray papers, that kind of thing. There was only one rule that every single staff member followed, without question: never open room 109, the old music room. I remember the first time I asked about it. My supervisor, Mrs. Rivera, just froze, like I'd said something dangerous. "It's storage now," she said quietly. "The school doesn't use it. Just leave it locked." Her tone made it very clear the conversation was over. For weeks, I didn't really think about it, until one evening, I was finishing up my checklist, walking down the west hallway, the oldest part of the school, and that's when I heard it. A piano, playing. It wasn't loud. It sounded distant, muffled by walls and age. But the melody was unmistakable, slow, shaky notes that didn't follow any recognizable song. It reminded me of someone practicing, or learning for the first time. I told myself a music teacher must still be in the building, but the hallway was dark. The entire wing had been empty for hours. My chest tightened as I realized where the sound was coming from: room 109. I found myself walking closer, almost against my will. With each step, the music became a little clearer. The notes were uneven, like someone was pressing the keys with trembling hands. When I finally reached the door, I expected the sound to be loud, but something strange happened. The music didn't get any louder. It stayed distant, as if the room was much farther away than the wall right in front of me suggested. That detail still bothers me to this day. The door had a small, wired glass window, foggy with dust and age. I wiped it with my sleeve and tried to peer inside. Nothing, just darkness. But the music kept playing. My hand hovered over the doorknob. A part of me didn't want to touch it, but another part couldn't just walk away. Finally, I forced myself to turn the knob. Locked. A wave of relief washed over me, and then in that exact same instant, the music stopped. Completely. Like whoever was playing had heard me. I backed away, suddenly aware of how quiet and empty the hallway was. No echoes, no distant activity. Just silence. I practically speed-walked out of the building, and didn't look back. The next day, I tried to act like nothing happened. But every time I walked past room 109, I felt watched. Like something inside that room knew I'd been listening. A week later, I heard it again. Same time, same melody, same broken rhythm. This time, I didn't go near it. I turned around and walked away fast. But with every step I took, the music grew louder. It wasn't echoing. It felt like it was following me. When I stopped, it stopped. That's when I noticed something new. A faint tapping sound, on the inside of the door. One slow knock, pause, then two knocks, like a pattern. I forced myself not to look back, and left the building shaking. I finally brought it up to Mrs. Rivera the next day. She didn't laugh. She didn't look confused. She just went pale. "You heard it," she whispered. "It's starting again." I asked her what she meant, but she wouldn't explain. She only said one thing: "Whatever you do, don't answer it." I didn't know what answer it meant, and honestly, I didn't want to find out. A few nights later, I was closing up alone again. I tried to rush through everything. refusing to go anywhere near room 109. But when I reached the front entrance to leave, I heard it. Right behind me. It wasn't faint anymore. It wasn't muffled. The piano was playing loudly, as if the room was open and someone was sitting right at the bench. I turned around slowly, my entire body numbed. Down the long, dark hallway, room 109's door was open. Just a crack, but it was open. A soft glow leaked out, like candlelight flickering from behind the doorway. My legs started moving on their own, pulling me toward that room. With every step I took, the music shifted. It got faster, sharper, more wrong. The melody became chaotic, almost angry. By the time I reached the doorway, my heart was pounding so hard, I could barely breathe. I nudged the door open the rest of the way. The room was empty. No lights, no candles, no piano. Just dust, stacked chairs, and old equipment covered in sheets. But I could still hear the piano loud and closes, if it was right in front of me. I turned to leave, and the door slammed shut behind me. The music stopped instantly. The air felt heavy and freezing, like something was standing inches from my face. In the pitch black, I heard breathing. It wasn't mine. It was slow, wet, raspy. Then, right beside my ear, a whisper, "Help me finish the song." My scream echoed through the room, and I threw myself at the door until it finally gave way. I didn't stop running until I reached my car. I quit the next day. A few months later, I heard the school had finally sealed off that entire hallway for good. But sometimes, late at night, when I'm trying to sleep, I swear I still hear that melody, slow, broken, waiting for someone to answer the last note. Someone whispered my name inside that abandoned school, but no one has called me that since the year I disappeared. I never intended to go inside the old Briarwood Elementary. Every local knows the place is sealed, shut, condemned after a fire. Rumors of missing children, and enough ghost stories to keep most sane people away. But curiosity isn't logical. And when it mixes with nostalgia, it becomes something dangerous. I grew up in that town. I went to that school. We moved away when I was 10, long before the fire. A few months ago, I returned to settle my mom's affairs. While packing, I found an old class photo, and a name written in the margin, present. Next to it was my full name. And under it, in darker ink, come back. I don't know why, but something in me needed to see that school one more time. When I got there, the late afternoon sun cast long, sharp shadows across the cracked pavement. Rusted playground equipment stood like skeletons, the swings swaying slightly in the cold wind, even though the air felt strangely stilled. The front doors were chained, but a side window was broken just wide enough. Stepping inside felt like entering a sealed tomb. Dust and ash coated everything. The halls were silent, except for the occasional drip of water echoing somewhere in the darkness. Yet it felt wrong. Not abandoned, just waiting. I pulled out my phone's flashlight. The beam cut through the dust, revealing faded murals and children's art still pinned to the walls. And then I saw something odd. Footprints. Small ones, like a child's, fresh in the dust. I told myself they were from an animal. My brain needed them to be. But the shape, the spacing, they were unmistakably human. I followed them, slowly, my breath sounding way too loud. The trail led to a classroom room to be, my old classroom. The door creaked as I pushed it open. Inside, desks sat in neat rows. The chalkboard still held faint traces of erased words. and then I saw it. On the teacher's desk sat a brand new attendance sheet. My flashlight shook as I lifted it. Names were printed neatly, one per line. Classmates I remembered, and some I didn't. Every name had a check mark next to it, except mine. Next to my name, someone had written a single word, present. My breath froze. Suddenly, the classroom door slammed shut behind me. My flashlight flickered. Then I heard it, a dry, slow whisper that seemed to come from everywhere. ... absent ... double quotes. My throat tightened. Before I could move, something scraped across the chalkboard. The sound felt like knives dragging through my skull. When I turned, letters were appearing on the board, one after another, as if written by an invisible hand. WLCOMBICK. The temperature dropped. Then little footsteps. Quick, soft, running in the hallway. Closer, faster. They stopped right outside the door. I didn't want to look. Every instinct screamed not to. But the doorknob twisted twice, then slowly turned. The door opened just enough for darkness to spill in. My flashlight trembled as I aimed it toward the crack. At first I saw nothing, then two small red sneakers. The same kind I used to wear in 3rd grade. My breath hitched as the beam moved up. A torso, a neck, a head tilted unnaturally to one side. And then the face. I dropped the flashlight. But even in the dim light, I saw enough. The eyes were dark and wrong. The skin too pale. The smile too wide. It was a child, but not a child. The whisper came again, from inches in front of me, though I couldn't see its mouth move. You forgot to come back. ... Double quotes. My voice finally returned, shaking. What do you want? The smile widened. Roll call. ... The classroom suddenly echoed with dozens of tiny footsteps. Desks rattling as unseen children filled them. Soft whispers layered over each other, chanting, present, present, present. The attendance sheet on the desk fluttered, and a pen, one I never brought with me, peered beside it. A force I couldn't control pressed my hand down, wrapping my fingers around the pen. The paper glowed faintly. My hand moved on its own. And I watched, helpless, as I signed my name next to the word, present. When I finished, every voice fell silent. The room grew darker. The last thing I heard before everything went black was the small voice right beside my ear. Now you can't leave again. I woke up outside the school, lying on the cold pavement. My phone was dead. My clothes smelled like smoke. But my writing hand was filthy with chalk dust. And on my wrist was a tiny ink stamp. Faded but unmistakable. Briarwood Elementary attendance confirmed. That school burned down decades ago. But I can still hear the whispers at night. Calling attendance. Waiting. And every time it gets to my name, someone else answers for me. I still hear the basketball bouncing when no one's there. And every night, the lights flicker, like something's moving in the gym. I used to work the late shift as a part-time school janitor. It wasn't a glamorous job, but it paid the bills, and the building was usually empty by the time I started. The only place I hated being was the gym. It wasn't the size or the echo, it was the lights. Everyone who worked there knew they acted strange. Most of the building had modern motion sensor lights, but the gym still used these old, buzzing fluorescent tubes that flickered in random patterns. And sometimes, without any explanation, they'd turn themselves on in the middle of the night. The first time it happened, I just figured it was bad wiring or a timer glitch. But I eventually realized it always happened at the exact same time, 2:13 a.m. one night. While I was emptying trash bins near the locker rooms, I heard it. A single, loud bounce echoing from the gym, like someone had just dropped a basketball from high up. You couldn't mistake that sound. The boom traveled right through the hallway, shaking the air. I completely froze. No one else was supposed to be in the building. I just stood there, listening. Total silence. I tried to convince myself it was just an old ball falling from a rack, or a door slamming somewhere. But deep down, I knew it wasn't. I crept to the gym door and pushed it open just enough to peek inside. The court was in near darkness, except for one light in the far corner, flickering faintly. The floor was completely empty. No ball, no people, nothing. But the room felt wrong, like someone was watching me from a shadow I couldn't see. I shut the door and just forced myself to finish my shift. A week later, it happened again. But this time, it wasn't just one bounce. It was several steady, rhythmic, deliberate, like someone dribbling a ball down the court. A cold feeling washed over me. Against my better judgment, I went back to the gym. My keys rattled in my shaking hand as I pushed the door open. This time, all the lights were on. Every single one. Bright, buzzing, almost angry. And right there, in the center of the court, was a basketball. It wasn't school property. Ours were always locked up, and had the school logo. This one was plain leather, worn and dirty, like it had been used on an outdoor court. I just stared at it. Nothing moved. Nothing made a sound. Just as I started backing away, the ball rolled. Slowly, smoothly, right toward me. Not bouncing, just rolling. The gym floor was perfectly level. I ran. A few days passed. I tried to switch shifts, tried to pretend it never happened, but the school was short-staffed, and soon enough, I was back on the night shift, alone. That evening, I didn't hear a bounce. I heard footsteps. Fast, uneven, frantic footsteps running back and forth across the court, like someone sprinting drills. I didn't even go near the door this time. I stood frozen in the hallway, listening, with every hair on my arms standing straight up. The footsteps stopped abruptly, and then, slowly, the gym lights flickered on, one by one. Click, pause, click, pause. It was like someone was walking under each light, triggering them. But there were no motion sensors in there. When the very last light turned on, the bouncing started again. I knew then, I wasn't dealing with something living. The air turned ice cold, and the hallway around me seemed darker than before. Something inside me just snapped, and I yelled out, "Who's there?" For a moment, there was nothing. Then, through the gym door, I heard a whisper. It wasn't loud, but it was close. Right on the other side of the door. "Come play." My blood went numb. I backed away slowly, and the moment I turned the corner of the hallway, the bouncing became violent. The ball was slamming into the floor so hard, it sounded like the whole building was shaking. I didn't look back. I grabbed my backpack, clocked out early, and got out of there. I reported everything to the daytime staff, but they just laughed it off, blaming old wiring, temperature changes, or my imagination. But a week later, one of the PE teachers pulled me aside. He looked pale. "You've heard it, haven't you?" he asked quietly. "The ball." I just nodded. He told me that years ago, before the school was renovated, a student collapsed during basketball practice. He had a heart defect nobody knew about, and he died right there on the court. The teacher swallowed hard before he finished. His friends said he was always practicing alone, late the night before a game. They heard the ball, too. I quit that job a month later. But sometimes, when I drive past the school, late at night, I see at the gym glowing brightly, while the rest of the building is dark. And if I roll my window down, I swear I can still hear it. One steady bounce. Waiting.